Hello and welcome to episode 7 of the Tom Finn podcast. Today's guest is Scarlett Turner. Scarlett is the director of Fuel Dance Theatre, a queer/queer ally physical theatre performance company based in Leicester. We talked about that, Scarlett's journey with their gender and sexuality, growing up in an all-girls school in South London, contemporary dance, and their experience performing at the Edinburgh Fringe. I first met Scarlett at the Edinburgh Art Centre in Leicester, where I saw them perform a contemporary duet. We begin the conversation with a discussion about that, so please enjoy this convo with Scarlett Turner. My partner Anna has been dancing forever, so all I know about dance is from that. It's from her. And she loves contemporary dance. That's like a main thing. And then, but watching you at Edinburgh Art Centre?
Edinburgh Art Centre.
Yeah, that was the first time I'd ever seen in like real life contemporary dance. And I really liked it.
Yay!
I really liked it. And I want more people to see it, especially face to face, because I think there's such a, seeing it on screen, there's such like a wall between the actual experience.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's that barrier.
It was also interesting because when I was watching you guys, where we were in like the art space, there was like a wall. So sometimes you would be dancing and then I wouldn't be able to see you because you'd be behind the wall. And I really liked it. Okay. I was like, that's really cool because I can only hear sort of movements and breath. Yeah. And I can't see what's going on. And then sometimes I'd like see like an arm or something. And then like my imagination's just sort of filling in the gaps. And I really like, was that like intentional when you did that? Or it just happened to be the space that you're in?
It just happened to be the space.
Right.
Because that's what we were worried about. People not seeing it. But then we were like, actually, if they want to see it, they can move around. Like that's up to them. Or if they like want to fill in the gaps like you said, then that's also, it's got that all. I felt like it gave that audience the freedom to do what they liked, whether to sit there or to move.
Yeah.
So, which a lot of people sat there.
Yeah. Well, near the beginning, Anna was like, should we move around? I was like, I kind of want to watch it like this and just see it this way.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think that's interesting. You should do something like that.
Yeah.
Have you thought about that before?
Never thought about it before until that performance.
Right.
But with that duet, I'm kind of planning, hopefully, to do it in public spaces. So that might be the case that, you know, depending on the location of where we choose to do it, there might be bits that people see and people don't, or it's just walking past and they see one bit and then that's it. So kind of in a similar way, but just not as obvious as a wall between it, the piece. Yeah. So, yeah, but it made me think about it a lot more because you weren't the only person who said that.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So that was interesting. It's made me think about it a bit more on the audience rather than just the whole context of the piece.
Well, because it seemed so intimate, it was like that sort of voyeuristic thing of watching you guys in like your own house or something. Yeah. And the fact that there was times where I couldn't see it, like my brain sort of put that together and was like, oh, that makes sense because I shouldn't be watching this right now. Yeah. Which I think is one of the few things, you know, with dance, you can do that. Other things you maybe can't. But let's go back. Okay. So right now we're in Leicester. Yep. At the Phoenix in the independent sort of cinema space. Yeah. Where you're saying that you work here and you sort of rent out space here and things. Yeah. So you're not from Leicester, right? No. From London?
Technically, but I was born in Northampton, so I am a Midlands person. Born, but brought up in South London. Right. So, yeah.
Why were you born in Northampton, but did you just move? Did your family
I just moved. So my mum remarried and then we moved. And then I moved to Brighton for 2 years. Okay. To study. And then I studied to top up my degree, very similar to you, to DMU for 2 years. Okay. So that's why I ended up here, because I just stayed here. Right. So, yeah.
How long were you in London for?
About 13, 14 years.
How was that?
It was all right.
Yeah.
It was what it was. At that point, I was just discovering that I liked dance, like when I was probably about 17. So I didn't have that, which a lot of dancers have. Not every dancer, but will go, yeah, I've been dancing since I was 4.
Yeah.
I've not had that because my mum was a single mum when I was, since I can remember.
Right.
So we didn't have that. We only started getting luxuries kind of when I was in my teens working. So I'd work and then go to dance classes and stuff. But yeah, it was a bit too busy. It was quite, I don't know, I was trying to figure out my sexuality at that point. So that wasn't really the main focus.
Right.
And everybody does ask me, why don't you move back? I was like, it's not as liberal as people say it is. Well, I guess it depends on where you are in London.
Right.
But where I was living, which is like 20 minutes away from Croydon.
Okay.
It's not very liberal. Might be now, but it wasn't when I was there. And I didn't really have a choice to move out either. So
right.
Yeah.
So was figuring out your sexuality, that was your main sort of childhood experience, would you say, from growing up?
Oh yeah, I was in a all girls high school for eight years.
How's that?
Horrible.
Okay.
And and obviously they make the jokes, and I'm quite all right with it. Oh, no wonder why you like girls.
Right.
And it's like, believe me, I'm surprised.
Yeah.
Because they are bitches.
Yeah.
Like, don't get me wrong, I had friends as well, but it was hard. I used to get bullied because I had short hair. People would call me a lesbian. It was all of that kind of stuff. And obviously now I know the reason is because they just didn't understand it.
Yeah.
And I didn't even know at that point. It was kind of like, I kind of embraced it when I finished my O-levels in a way. So that was intense.
Yeah.
Intense.
Yeah. Well, it's weird because like you said, when you're a child, like children just don't know.
Yeah.
It doesn't change the scarring that it does to you, though.
Yeah.
Like, it still affects you. You still see those people on Facebook that you're like, I'm sure you're fine now, but you did something, but you're like, you can't, like, talk to them about it. Do you know what I mean? It's this weird thing. Yeah, school is a strange place. I can imagine an all-girls school is.
It's just uneducated. And that sounds like I'm belittling their education. I'm not. I just mean that particular knowledge for that, LGBT community.
Yeah.
Like they didn't teach it in schools.
No.
Like they still don't.
Yeah, it's still a struggle. People are still annoyed by it for some reason.
Yeah. So like from that hindsight, obviously me being an adult now, like I can see why. And it does make me giggle because some of them are actually gay now. So that, they were obviously
the classic
projecting that because they didn't understand their own sexuality. So we were going through the same thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was what it was, really.
Well, I think we're similar ages, I think, right? I'm like 23.
Oh, I love you. No?
27. Oh my God.
I'm 27.
Really?
Yeah, I look young.
Wow.
Yeah.
Normally people always think I'm really old. Well, not really old, but like older.
Yeah.
I think I'm like at least 30. I'm like, no.
No, I thought you were about the same age as me.
Right. Well, that's good for both of us, I suppose.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Because I was going to say school for me was like early 2000s onwards to like the late.
Sure. Yeah.
So yours would have been more sort of late 90s, right?
Yeah, late 90s, yeah.
And to think of how much has changed just in that space of time. It's strange because we live in a time now, I find, like every year is like a huge leap.
Yeah.
Which I think is really good.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's easy to be like, oh yeah, of course that's the thing. That's how people thought back then, because even like it might be with me and maybe with yourself, even a year ago where you think like, well, I was thinking that last year, that's completely changed now.
Exactly. So it's just about growing as a person.
Yeah.
And just, like I said, educating yourself in different ways. And I think it also helps like interacting with different people, because if you're brought up in, say, like a white middle class background for most of your life, that's all you're going to know.
Yeah.
You're like, here, like, this is why I've also like stayed in Leicester, because there's so many different cultures, and I love learning about different people and, you know, their religions and how they live and all. And obviously I've like broadened my horizons in that way.
Yeah.
Whereas if you are just stuck in one city with that, then I think, well, you know, they might like it, but I think it's not the best thing to do, personally. So obviously you're gonna be a bit more, what's the word? I hate to say less educated, but it is in that way. I don't really like the word educated because it sounds like I'm belittling everybody. But
yeah, I guess if you think of it a way where it doesn't mean, it's not like you're saying, you know, straight out that this person is wrong. It's just they don't have as much information.
That's
right?
it. Yeah.
It's the lack of information. It's the lack of seeing things from a 360 degree view.
Yeah.
Which I think is important. It's like, you don't go around pointing the finger at people saying, you're an idiot.
Yeah.
But it's just, I just want you to see it from this
perspective.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. And you don't know their lives, so you can't point. And this is what I mean, like, going back to like the whole high school thing with the girls, like, I didn't know what they were going through.
Yeah.
They didn't know what I was going through. Like, so that's why I'm not very like, oh yeah, you know, do you know what I mean? Still got it on my shoulder.
Yeah,
There's no point. It's the same with if people have conversations with me now that disagree. And I'm like, yeah, but have you thought about it this way?
Right.
It's more just having those open conversations.
Yeah.
And whether they come out of it in a different way or not, at least you've kind of tried to have those open conversations with them, because I think that's important. And that's kind of like what I try and do with my dance work.
Figuring out sexuality and things. Was there a point where you started, did you ever figure it out in a way? Is that still a struggle, or is that?
Nah.
No?
Because the problem is that whilst I was trying to figure out my sexuality, I was also trying to figure out my gender.
Right.
So there was both of them in tow. And I did eventually go, right, when it came out to my mum. My mum's going to be like, stop talking about me. But I can't help it because she's a legend.
Yeah.
I was like, Mum, I'm bisexual. Like,
right.
I've always known I have been attracted to the same sex as myself. But yeah, and I was like, and she went, oh, I thought you were a lesbian anyway. Like, it's chill, like,
okay.
It's cool.
Yeah.
And my dad told him, he went, who is? And I went, me. He went, all right, then just carried on watching the TV. So it was very open, and my mum's always been very open with that, you know, tell us, like, very. So I had that support system there, so I was very lucky. But it just was so much at school. I think it had that. But yeah, I think eventually I realised that I was pansexual. Okay. Probably when I was about 20, 21. Because I was like, yeah, bi doesn't seem right to me. Like, I don't like labels. I bloody hate them. Yeah. Because I understand people who use them, and I do use them to mainly explain my sexuality and my gender to other people. But I understand it's like a safety net for people. Yeah. But for me, it's just, well, I'm attracted to who I'm attracted to. Doesn't matter what gender, doesn't matter what sex. Human, might I add, because I get that a lot. Right. So you know you're attracted to horses then, aren't you? Yeah. No, honey. Like, no, I'm vegan and that ain't gonna happen. I ain't gonna you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, no.
It's I don't know why people do that.
They're
it's
just
such
ignorant.
You know that, but I feel like it's like, that's not a thing. Yeah. It's like you're just doing it to be an arsehole.
Yeah.
It's so annoying.
Yeah. Just trying to be funny, but it's actually like, hang on. And it used to come from, like, you know, straight people. Yeah. And I was like, you actually have no clue what, you know, how it really affects your mental health. Like, I am very privileged in having family that support it. And the same with my gender. Obviously, I know a couple of my friends who don't have that. So I am lucky in that way. But still, for you, as trying to figure it out, it's bloody hard. Yeah. because you've got the pressures of society thinking that's norm, straight is normal, and what you've been at birth, so your sex is what you should identify as in your gender. And that I always felt like that wasn't right for me. So I've always been I call myself the in-betweenie, because gender, I don't feel right being. So to explain it, sex is biological, gender is what you perceive yourself as. So for me, I understand, and I have to say this to a lot of people, I understand that I've got a female body. I'm not ignorant in that way.
Yeah.
But I just don't connect with it at all. And they're like, oh, well, do you want to be a man then? I'm like, well, no.
Right.
So I don't identify with either, hence why I go as non-binary trans, because I feel like that represents me.
Right.
And then I get a lot of people going, well, you don't look it. I was like, what you meant to...
What does that mean?
What does that even mean? It's internal. It's what you feel.
Yeah.
It's not actually the shell. So that I started to figure out actually when I was at university here, like the whole gender situation, and I was watching videos about it, and I was like, yeah, I've never felt completely right. When people call me woman or her, it just made me cringe inside.
Right.
I was like, no, that's not right.
Yeah.
And I did say to my mum when I was trying to explain, I was like, I did actually think I was male for a lot of my childhood. But then that just didn't feel right. So it's like figuring it out for a long, long period of time.
Yeah.
And I think it must have been when I graduated, which is when I come out as non-binary.
Right.
But I think I was probably about 22 when I figured it out for myself, because it takes years.
Yeah.
Well, not everybody just, some people are just like, yes, I'm here, I'm queer.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I was one of those bitches that takes long time, So yeah, that was kind of that whole, and I embrace it now. I used to hide it. I don't anymore. If people get my pronoun wrong, I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Because I feel, and it's not me being rude, and it's not them being rude either. They just, it's installed in them. The grammar is installed in them. So they is many people.
Yeah.
But for instance, here I told them that I was non-binary, and they were like, okay, sure. What's your pronoun? So some of them knew. And then they all embraced it, and don't get me wrong, sometimes they bugger it up, but they're like, they. And I'm like, that's cool. And they've really embraced it here. So it's actually given me the confidence to embrace it in other ways.
Yeah.
And did my own solo work that I'm still working on, and it's been like 3-4 years, about non-binary identity and pansexuality, and trying to get it out there a bit more so that it's a bit more... well known. But then there's a lot of other people doing that now, not just generally in Leicester, but I don't think there's a lot of people doing it in Leicester that I know of, but I just might never have met them. But, just around the UK and especially America, I think, which is surprising.
I think unis are starting to do it as well.
Yeah.
Which is good. I think with I guess people find it difficult to understand. You know what I mean? Like they hear it and they go, okay, but I guess people don't. If they don't get it, then it must just be strange to them.
Yeah, of course.
And I remember when I finally connected to it in a way, was I realized that I have a strong disconnect with my name.
Right.
So if people called me Tom, Tommy, Thomas, whatever, it just felt wrong.
Like it wasn't you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'd respond to it, but I'd be like, that's not really me. And when that happened, it took me a long time to figure it, to think about it, to be like, wait, what's actually happening?
Yeah, sure.
And as soon as that happened in my head, I was like, oh, okay. It's starting to make sense now. It's just that complete disconnect with what
you've been given.
Yeah. And I hope that schools start to teach that at an early age, because it's just, like you said, it's like these are the things that you've been taught for so long that when you start trying to change it, your brain will just go straight back to what it knows.
Yeah, it's just habitual.
Yeah. So if we start doing it early, it's not going to be as much as a problem, you know?
Yeah.
And I don't know why people are protesting against that kind of thing. It's like, what do you think this is going to do, you know?
Well, it's not, it's not going to go into World War III or anything like that. Like,
yeah.
Or like, it's just letting people have their expression. You have yours every single day.
Yeah.
Or you express it every single day because that is your right to. So just give the other people that same right.
Yeah.
I don't understand, one, why it bothers you. It ain't got nothing to do with you.
Yeah.
Like, to be sassy about it. Do you know what I mean? Like, actually, it's just about everybody having the same right and feeling equal. I say this to a lot of people, like Pride, and everyone's like, why don't you go? You're such an activist for it. I say, yeah, but there's a reason why I don't go to Pride anymore, because it's not about what it was about.
Right.
When it, when people were protesting, it was a protest. It wasn't to get pissed. And I think people have forgotten the meaning of it, and like, oh yeah, well, there's all these companies behind it. Yes, to make money. It's not it's not actually to support it. It's make it. It might be to a certain extent, but it's actually to make money. It's all about money now.
That's always my pessimistic view as well.
Yeah.
When I look at films or TV or adverts or anything, I'm like, oh great, they're including this or they're including that. But my first thought was like, well, they're doing it for money.
Yeah.
Which is the first thing. I was like, is it? It's still good in a way because that's still like representation, but then. The reasons behind it is seedy, it just makes me feel a bit gross. It's all business and
money based.
Yeah.
And I don't think a lot of people think about it like that. But then, there's part of me that wishes that I didn't think about it like that and just embraced it as it was, but I kind of find it hard to.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it's good being someone who thinks about it like that as well.
Yeah.
It's just good not to take everything at face value. Even just pick everything apart, Yeah. That's a good way to live, I think.
Well, I think so, because then you see who are the phonies and who aren't. Do you know what I mean? And I don't really I try not to support organisations that are just all about money. Like, don't get me wrong, like I know I go to Lidl and buy like a shop. Right. And stuff like that. I know that's like a global corporation, but I've got to eat.
You got to live, yeah.
So, I think there's obviously in moderation, but I mean in like terms of like the queer community. If that is a thing anymore, which is something I kind of also disagree on as well.
Right.
So it's not just about, which, I've experienced this with a lot of queer people, straight people. And I'm like, hey, wait a minute. Like, the LGBTQ plus some people I've come across aren't very open. They can't bisexuality is not a sexuality. They kind of disregard quite. Some people are transphobic within that community.
Right.
So there's a lot going on in that community.
Yeah. That
people don't know about and don't speak about as well. And that drives me nuts. And and this is like, just going back to like Fuel Dance Theatre, this is why I have different people within my dance company. So I do have straight people in my dance company. I do have bisexuals, lesbians, non-binaries, a good representation of everybody so that they can come together and understand it. Because I think they're both to not blame, but I think people need to be aware that it's not, can't just blame it on one stereotype.
Right.
Vice versa. And I just want people to understand it from both points of view.
So you started dancing at 17, did you say?
When I started taking it seriously, yes.
Right. So what happened? Did something click?
Yeah, I suppose. So I was doing like dance classes, like because when it was part of the curriculum at high school, like silly little pop dances and stuff in dance class, and I was like, oh yeah, I like this, and my parents always took me to the pantomime every year. So my mum loved to dance. Unfortunately, she's got a rheumatoid arthritis that she was born with, and it's all everywhere. Right. So she never was able to do it. So she wasn't one of those pushy mums. She just was like, oh yeah, do you want to watch this with me? And I was like, yeah, sure. Like just on like video.
Yeah.
Isn't that fucking old? Video. Yeah. And, I just got a love for it then. Didn't matter what style it was. I just absolutely loved it. And then we I think it was year 9. Oh, I can't even remember. It's that long time ago. I think I did GCSE dance. And I started learning contemporary. And I was like, oh, I like this. I like a bit of this. And then I was like, okay. So I'm doing the GCSE of it because I didn't plan to go to university or anything. I was like, I have no clue what I want to do.
Yeah. Maybe
a primary school teacher. Realised it wasn't really for me.
No.
Which is funny. Now I work in a primary school. And yeah, so then I got into love doing it there, and like was talking to the teachers, like, how can I, get more experience? How can I do that? And there was this woman, and I can't remember her name because I'm rubbish with names, but she was doing maternity leave for our class in A level. This is when I took A level eventually. And she was from Brit School. So she was just covering for a couple of months. And she was like, you should go to Laban just to do classes there. It's only like 45 minutes on the train.
Right.
And I was like, what's this Laban thing? Like, what is this place?
Yeah.
I had no clue about any of it, like all the conservatoires and all this malarkey, no clue. And she like taught me everything, and I was like, all right. So I started going to that, and all these other kids that would go wanted to get into dance professionally, and I was like, oh, this could actually be a thing. I was like, okay. And then I did level 1, and it was piss easy, and I just, for me anyway,
right.
I was like, well, maybe I'll go into level 2. The teacher was like, I think you should audition for the youth dance company there. And I was like, really? I was like, I've been here for a month.
Yeah.
She was like, yeah, but I think you'll get more out of it if you get in. And I was like, all right then, I'll do that. And I got in.
Right.
So I did that for a year, absolutely loved it. We did performances on their big stages, and I was like, yeah, this is what you saying, click. It clicked, and I was like,
right.
Yeah. I was like, I like this.
Yeah.
And then applied the first time to university, but only got one offer. Because my grades suffer with dyslexia, learning difficulties when I was younger.
Me too.
Yeah. So I got into some auditions, but they didn't accept me. And I personally think it was because of grades. Mm-hmm. A lot of the universities are very fickle like that.
Yeah.
So I got offered on a foundation course at Brighton University for 2 years. And that was hard. Mm-hmm. And then I applied again to university, got all of this time, I got all of them. And then I was like, oh, which one do I want to go to? Yeah. I was like, this is nice. And then I went here for 2 years. And then that's kind of how it...
Here is in DMU.
DMU, sorry, yeah.
Okay.
Montfort University.
For the listeners.
Yeah, for the listeners. Sorry, yeah. Here at Phoenix, in the small room.
I've been here ever since.
Yes, I've been here ever since. Going crazy. Yeah, to Montfort. And then they taught you like how to be like a freelance dancer and making your own work. And I was like, yeah, that's what I want to do. So and it just went on from there, really.
So how was dance in education for you? Did you like it? Were there things you didn't like about it?
It was good GCSE A-level, but because I was in a public school, you didn't get a lot of training, like technique training. So I kind of learned a lot of choreography, which I thought was good, but, obviously I feel like you do need... I think it was good... in younger years, because I think it's great, because even if you don't want to do it as a career, it's really good to express yourself if you're not, textbook intelligent, which is how I say it. You're more, creative intelligent.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that is really good. It's a shame they've cut it now, but I won't go on about that.
Yeah.
And then Brighton was hard. I found that really hard. I ended up developing an eating disorder.
Right.
And I think a lot of them did. A lot of the students that I was dancing with found it really hard because I was suffering mental health, obviously, within that, because I wasn't eating properly. Dancing Monday to Friday, that was quite intense. I think if I was well, I think it would have been brilliant and I'd loved the experience. But unfortunately, just with other personal things going on, I think they didn't promote it like that. Like, they did not promote you needed to be skinny. Like, I will say that. They never did that, which I know a lot of my other dancer friends, they were like, you need to lose weight, you need to put makeup on. Yeah. That's more musical theatre than contemporary dance, I would say. So that was a struggle. Like, I remember just walking into class crying and they were like, right, do the movement, just be crying, dancing, because I just couldn't cope.
Yeah.
But then, second year got better because I started getting well. But I think that's the only thing with a lot of dance organisations, like not Brighton, just from other people's experience with conservatoires and I'm not saying that this is just hearsay, so I'm not saying that they promote unhealthy living. That's not what I'm saying. It's just from other people's experiences. The eating thing is definitely a situation for a lot of dancers, which is a shame. But then DMU, I went to DMU and I think it was just because it wasn't so intense on physical, not physical attributes. I mean, just like classes all the time and all that. It was also your creative aspect of being a dancer. So learning how to do film and learning how to do your own dance films and being your own business in a way. So that kind of, and I feel like there was an atmosphere at DMU that was different. Like, everybody was supportive at DMU and not necessarily everybody was at Brighton at that time. So yeah, the unis were, I think that might just be the people, how we all came together. And like I said, a lot of people at Brighton did have eating disorders as well. So if you put a massive group of people with eating disorders in a dance context, that's going to be hostile.
Yeah.
Whereas obviously it was a bigger group. And I think minus that, it was a really positive experience. I got to, I wouldn't take it back. I learned different things from different unis, so I was quite glad that I did that. And I was really annoyed that I was like, I didn't get in like proper people do and do it the proper way. But actually, I'm like kind of benefited a little bit from that. So for me, anyway.
I had the same with doing a foundation course in Bedfordshire and then going to Brighton. It's good to have different perspectives and different teaching thing, because then you go to one place and you realise, everyone is kind of the same because they've all been taught this one way.
Yeah.
And they haven't had, different people tell them different things. So.
Well, that's it. And like with being an artist or, if you're creative, like with your podcast and stuff like that, like you do need different perspectives because you're going to always be working with different people. So I think it is quite good to be like that before you even graduate.
So, from finishing at DMU, what happened then? Because you run Fuel Dance Company, right?
Yeah.
What was the transition? What happened in those years?
So my first year, I had not a sausage what I was going to do. I was like, right, I just want to dance, whatever, just try and do anything. Because I've always wanted to do different bits. It's not like, I want to be a dancer for, I want to be a director, everything, because I'm just greedy like that.
Yeah.
So I worked with, in my second year, Priya Mystery, who's a live artist. So she works with movement, but in a different way to dance. And I bumped into her one day, probably 6 months after graduating or something. And she was like, I was going to talk to you. And I was like, oh, hello. And then I ended up getting on she was doing a work about mental health. It's called the Mental Health Cabaret. She got funding for, and I was her dance practitioner for it.
Okay.
So I did that for a couple of months.
When you say dance practitioner, I think this would be good for people who don't know about dance.
Yeah.
Like me. What's a dance practitioner?
So it's more like guiding movement.
Okay.
So Priya does have movement experience, but in a different way to me being trained as a dancer. So I think movement and dancers, it sounds really strange. There are different levels. Okay. I'm not saying levels of professionalism or anything like that, but I think she wanted someone to bounce off and choreograph with. Okay. And movement also, I mean where stuff is in the space, if she's saying lines, where would that have the most impact and stuff like that. So I did that for a couple of months with her. And then I think, I can't remember whether this was before or after, because my brain's, I don't know timelines. Yeah. So Fuel Dance Theatre was already running at this point. Okay. I didn't run it. It was Sophie Hockin, who was a graduate from DMU, and a couple of dancers who danced in her third year piece made a whole company, and they were auditioning for it. So I auditioned, and then I got a call back, and then I got in as a dancer. Okay. And then we did some touring, and we worked on a piece for a year, which was really fun, called Empathy. And then we did another work with a different choreographer in Nottingham. And then I think Sophie, just her career with Moving Together was going really well. She's doing really well. She basically decided she didn't want to do it anymore. Okay. And I was like, well, you've done all this work for the last 2.5 years, probably a bit more than that. I was like, I'll take it over. Not thinking what the hell that entails. Right. Nothing. Not a sausage. And I was like, yeah. And then, so we discussed it, and then I took it over. And then I applied for an Arts Council bid, my first ever one, in 2016. I got it, and then made a show. And then it kind of went on like that, really. Right. And then I made it into a queer ally dance company, because I felt like that was where, creatively, for me, that's where it was going. But yeah, the name's still the same. Right. But not much else is. Because I've obviously got different influences than Sophie and all the other dancers who created it first. Yeah. Did, so yeah.
Would you see it as something that when you left, it would pass on to someone else and then they changed it to what they want?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's because how me and Sophie kind of transitioned it together. I think we'd like it to still go on. So I have an assistant director now, who's Liza Mortimer, who you saw. She's the one in the duet. Okay. So if I ever, but it's still a collaborative thing anyway. So it's not, I'm the director, she's the assistant director, but when we're in a space together, it's okay, I might come up with the idea, but then ideas are flowed through all the dancers and we create it together. It's not okay, I've made this up, you learn it. It's not like that. Yeah, yeah. So it's still got that collaborative aspect. So, whether I took it, if I was I'm done, see you later. Yeah. I gave it to Liz. She might run it financially and all that kind of stuff, but I'm hoping it would still be the same. But she might change the way it moves forward. But I don't see myself doing that for a long time. Right. Because I've been doing it for 4 years now. And it's just picking up its pace now. So, yeah, I'm still learning. I had no clue. Yeah. Start, I was just going to apply for a bid, sure. I didn't know what was going to, and then they gave me 10 grand. I was like, oh. Right. Okay. Yeah. I was all my dancer friends, I was help, I have no clue what I'm doing. Yeah. I don't even know how to direct a company. I don't even know how to, like make a big show, like, and I've just got this money, and I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, it was a learning curve, like a massive learning curve for about a year.
I was thinking about this when I was watching you guys, and I think a stigma that contemporary dance gets from people that don't know much about dance is that, it's just people mucking about, right? That's what people seem to, that's their first thought for some reason. It's like people just
prancing around like a tree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But when I was watching it, my thought was like completely opposite. It was like the choreography for this, it must be so difficult to have something, to come up with moves and timing and things for something that looks so fluid and looks so just like just a form of expression that's just happening, right, as it's going.
Yeah.
But especially if there's two people, I assume the same with one, but there's so much rehearsing to get it exactly right. How does that work? How, if that's something you can explain? Because again, this is from someone who doesn't know much about dance, but ballroom and things like that, I assume there's movements and there's things you can do. So it's easier to be like, you do this, then you do this, and you do this. But with contemporary, it's not like that, or it is and it's hidden. Tell me.
Okay. I get what you mean. Like ballroom, also like you've got a leader and then someone else. You know, so obviously that's not the case. Well, it is a lot of rehearsal, but they're also, I don't really know. Like with contemporary, like especially like lifts, for instance, there's a lot of distribution of weight, so you know when that's right to go.
Okay.
So there's a lot of listening and connection within the body. Okay. So it sounds really lame, but that's really it. Right. And obviously a lot of rehearsal. So like, for instance, how we created that duet, I was like, right, I'm going to do a piece about my ex-girlfriend. Okay. And I was like, this is what we're going to do. Put it into just 3 structures. Like some people do it like that. Some people go, right, got this idea. Here's a task, go and make something. But because it was duet and we had not a very long, I think we made it in 8 hours. Right. So it was because lives went a bit too much and then Edinburgh was suddenly up our bottom. So we were like, okay, so I was like, right, I dreamt this, got this here, you come in, some kiss happens and then something else. And then I watched different contemporary companies and trying the vibe of it, not necessarily copy, obviously. No. But I'm like, this is the vibe. And then we kind of create little sections within that and see if that, and then discard bits that don't work. It's a lot easier when I'm the director and then the dancers are there so that I can direct. But because that was a duet, we had to direct it through film. Right. Because obviously I'd normally be directing, but it was just so happened that I was in the duet. I don't know if I'm actually answering your question. No. But yeah, like breaking it down, I think is the thing, and then moulding it together. Like there's, if you're like, okay, I'm ready, like you'll put your hand on someone's shoulder and go, okay, I'm there. Right. So it's that trust there to know which bit to go on. When you perform a contemporary piece like that, compared to when you've rehearsed it, would it be exactly like how it was rehearsed, or is there elements of improvisation during? It depends. Weirdly, you choreograph the bits that are improvised. Okay. Which sounds like, so for instance, there was bits we're like, oh yeah, we're a bit too early because we're going through it too fast. So you'd have choreographed bits and it'd be like, okay, for this minute when the sound goes, whatever, that's when you start to improvise, and when the sound goes, or I don't know, Lies does a move, and that's when we stop improvising. Right. So there was a little bit of improvisation within that duet, but not very much because, one, it would be hard to do, and we didn't want it as relaxed as like a contact improvisation duet because there was a story involved. Right. So we did heavily choreograph it. But for like bigger groups, I will go, okay, so you do this choreography, boom, boom, boom. And then we'll structure an improvisation score, which will have rules. So I don't know, when you have to come to this point to say, because obviously we're theatre as well, so we use speech as well. Say your point, and then you go back, and then someone else says their point. That's just a basic one.
Right.
But, and then there's, I don't know, Liza's the last one to go up and say that, then it's the next section.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be like quite a basic score. So then you've got that freedom within it, which it's easier to do with bigger groups, not necessarily duets within contact.
Right.
It depends how you really, if it's just about movement, then contact improvisation is a brilliant way of performing it. But yeah, we use mainly improvisation to create the work, and then it sets that way, rather than it completely being improvised on the night.
Right. I guess similar to music or sort of comedy writing, things like that, where it's like you improvise it first, get the best stuff, form it around that.
Yeah, like editing and structuring and,
yeah.
Obviously like with comedy, there's a bit of ad-libs and that can happen if there's an improvised section. You can allow that time for ad-libs.
Right.
But yeah, it's in a way, it's a bit easier to just choreograph quite a lot of it. It really depends what you want to create. So is it a really uniform, structured movement material that just says this one thing and that's what you want from that section? Or is it quite free, to interact with the audience and give it that play vibe? Then I might go for a bit of improvisation, we would go for a bit of more improvisation within that. It just really depends what the theme is and where we're going with the whole thing and what we want to say. Because that, if you want to say a really hard-hitting thing within movement, sometimes improvisation might not speak to the audiences because you never know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
So sometimes you do have to choreograph it.
So you mentioned Edinburgh Fringe.
Yeah.
Festival.
Yeah.
Was that your first time there?
Second.
Second time.
Yeah.
Was that your second time performing?
See, that was my first time personally performing.
Right.
But the year before that, I took all my dance company there. And I was the director of the big piece.
Okay.
That we did This Is Sense the year before that. So yeah, this was my first time performing.
So what's Fringe like then?
Mayhem.
Yeah.
Like beautiful mayhem. I don't know how people do it for a whole month. Because we only did it for a week both times. It was part of the innovations platform. It's very open. There's a lot of comedy.
Yeah.
Because I think that's where it stemmed from.
Yeah.
But I just like how free it is, because you'll talk to someone, they go, I've never watched contemporary dance. Like with you coming to the Edinburgh, they'll be like, oh yeah, what's it about? Oh yeah, actually I'll come and see it. And then you'll see them in the audience because you've just had that lovely conversation with them.
Yeah.
We were in a hostel chatting to some of the people in there that came to watch the show. It's that like, you go there because you're interested in the arts, or you want to know more about it. It's like we'd go to shows because you'd be performing we were performing one night, each night, or every other night. I can't even remember. It's such a blur. But then we'd go in and go and watch random things. I'm like, oh, this is on. We have no clue what it's about. Should we just go? Yeah, all right then.
Yeah.
You don't get the chance to do that. So it is good to, and also that really helps you creatively go, oh, actually, I could do this in a piece, or just embracing what it is. So it's just, I think, how many shows were on? 2,000 and something.
Yeah.
It's crazy. So there's a lot going on and there's a lot of competition. But yeah, I just feel like it's a good experience, even if you go as just an audience member. like you'll get so much out of it.
Yeah.
And you'll meet so many like cool people.
Yeah.
That are just very open about everything. So
I've always wanted to go. I've
Yeah,
never been.
no.
It just seems like somewhere that, yeah, like you said, just that open experience of you're here to watch things.
yeah, and it gives you more confidence in your own work, which I didn't expect that to be the case last year, because obviously we were quite new to the scene, and like I was like, if anybody's going to come, but also just it was like, actually no, you need to be confident because you need to sell. And get me wrong, I'm not a massive fan of the whole flyering thing, but you know it does get you into conversation with people.
Yeah.
But you need to be confident to promote your show. So you wouldn't be there if you weren't confident about, you know, your talent or your show in general.
Yeah.
And I think that really boosted us as a company because, and then like the next year it was a piece of piss. Like, it's like, yeah, I'm not the best with flying. Liza's a lot better than me.
Right.
But yeah, and it does boost your confidence as a performer.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's so much going on. Like if you ever go,
Yeah.
make sure you get somewhere that you're not walking half an hour to get into town, because that's what we did in the first year. Oh my God, I nearly died. So many hills.
Oh yeah, Edinburgh's like all hills, isn't
And
it?
it's such a beautiful, picturesque place.
Yeah.
So if you want to get out away from it, because it's obviously very like in your face, then you can, because there's like lovely like fields and stuff around.
Yeah.
So it's, yeah, I wouldn't do it for longer than a week.
Okay.
I don't know how people do it for a month.
Yeah.
Like performing it every single day for a month. I don't know how they do it.
And staying at like random people's houses and things like that.
Yeah. Or just, you know, basically spending their profit before they've even got it.
Yeah.
Or potential profit. So that's why obviously we did it through a company, because it just logistically, there's no way we could afford it.
Yeah.
So, and also part of me is like, it should be the other way around.
Yeah.
Like you should be paying people to perform. But then I think because it's so open and anybody can come, like loads of people from different countries come as well. So you know, learning what's contemporary dance is in America or what theatre is in Germany, and like all these different people come and watch it. So you learn a lot about what's the now thing in other countries, which I found really interesting.
So I was wondering about inspiration for you. What is like the main inspiration? Because for me, although I'm someone who's super into film and TV and things like that, sometimes I find it so difficult to watch any.
Yeah.
And then I'll watch a film that just completely puts me back into like that creative. I've just got to make something.
Yeah.
Do you have that as well for dance? Is it a dance or could it be anything?
I'm influenced by a lot of things.
Right.
So that's why it's Fuel Dance Theatre, not necessarily dance and theatre. So that because I'm very into like the queer culture, and like I am starting to get into a lot more drag these days. Well, more openly. I was doing drag in my house many years ago, but a bit more open with it, like in public now, and all that culture and live art. Ways of using different objects and different materials as influences, and just plays necessarily. So I think for me, I don't like to force anything, and I do like to say stuff that actually has a political statement, and not in a way like shoving it in your face. It's more having those conversations between the audience. Questioning more than anything. So when it pops in my head is when it happens. I don't, like for instance, the duet, we did it as part of don't judge. We got commissioned to do the Ed Sheeran experience at Haymarket Theatre about 1.5 years ago.
Okay.
I just went, this will be interesting. Let's see how we can do it, because it's very commercial.
Right, the Ed Sheeran experience. Yeah. So what does that entail?
Well, it was... try not to laugh. laugh at it because I'm not really a massive fan of Ed Sheeran anymore.
No, nor am I.
Or just generally.
Or have ever been.
I used to love him back in the
Right.
day, you know, when I was...
With his loop pedal and things.
Yeah. So basically it was just a massive show with all his music and a lookalike and soundy person. What are they called?
Impersonator?
Thank you.
Right.
God. Impersonator was singing some of his songs live.
Okay.
And they wanted dancers to do different things. So we got commissioned to do 4. Well, I think it was 5. And I was like, hell no, not in 2 months. Not happening. So we did 4 in the end. And then actually this duet came out of that. And I was like, right, we're a queer company. Even though, you know, they want it quite commercial because they saw our work, This Is Sense. And when I really like your interactiveness and like your quirkiness. You know, obviously we do want it a bit more commercialised within the movement, but we like how you present yourself on stage. And I was like, okay, cool, that's fine. But I was like, okay, so we are a queer ally company and I do want to represent that, obviously.
Yeah.
Like obviously to the audience. So we made up a duet with me and Lies. It's not what it's like now. What you saw is completely different because it was a lot more lyrical, which we're not used to.
Okay.
It was quite cheesy. But then I was like, hang on, this is a great idea because you don't see a lot of like lesbian duets or just female duets within just entertainment necessarily, but contemporary, it's always 2 men,
Right.
Gay men normally, if that's what their, you know, subject is. So I was like, okay, let's do that. And then that's kind of how it just clicked in me. I was like, okay, sure. And the others are just stuff that maybe we've discussed as a group and then I've gone pop,
Yeah.
you know, or it's, you know, it's a lot to do about gender or it's about bringing people together. So yeah, it clicks and then that's it really. But my influences are everywhere and anywhere. I could be walking down the street going, you know, I could see random billboard or something and then suddenly I get a idea or something.
Yeah.
But I let it come to me. I don't really, like I said, I do dream quite a lot about stuff. And they're like, where'd you get this from? This is great. I'm like, hee, I dreamt about it.
Yes.
I don't know what I had before I went to sleep. But yeah, so yeah, it's a bit wishy-washy, but I prefer to be like that.
Yeah.
Because if you're really, I don't know what's the word, on it, I don't know. I think you create that pressure around it.
Yeah.
And there's not enough fluidity to be able to explore the different possibilities of your idea. So yeah, that's kind of how.
Most of my ideas come from listening to music and walking somewhere.
Yeah.
So
Definitely.
walking around town recently, I've had lots of ideas just happen.
Yeah.
And you have that thing where the idea happens, but it's very loose. And then from that walk from where you are to say home or something, it just builds into this solid thing. You're like, oh, I've got it.
Yeah.
And you get home, it's like, yes, and you write down or whatever. So the Ed Sheeran wasn't at the Ed Sheeran experience. There's no Ed Sheeran.
There was actually no Ed Sheeran
He's
there.
not there. Because I was thinking the best way to experience Ed Sheeran would be to have Ed Sheeran there.
Yeah, that wasn't the case.
What would you say to someone who has never seen contemporary dance before? Say, maybe just in real life.
What is it?
What would you say? How, what am I saying here? To get them to watch it, right? What would you tell them?
Oh my God.
I know it's a strange question.
Hold my hand. I'm taking you to a contemporary show. If you don't like it, I'll buy you a beer afterwards. I don't know. I don't know, you know, because obviously contemporary, I find how I explain it is it's just such a cop out because I'm like, until you go and watch it, I can't really explain it to you or read the synopsis because they're all different because contemporary can be taken so many different ways. But to people who are just like, what's contemporary? I'm just like, it's a relaxed form of ballet, but it's not, which is just a cop out.
Right.
It's so hard. Like, I'm like, maybe like look if you're interested in the subject matter and then come and see it. But I just don't know, like... Yeah, that's a hard question. I don't know. I would probably just drag them there.
Yeah.
Like, you're going to love it.
The way I think about it is just movement, right? It's telling a story or a narrative through movement, and that can be anything.
Yeah, it could be anything or nothing.
Yeah.
Which sounds really bizarre, but yeah, it is. But then people get weirded out about that sometimes. Like, if they've not, you know, obviously, if someone was to go and see theatre, it would I think they would be more comfortable with plays or musicals because they've got that context. Whereas sometimes contemporary dance doesn't give you that context on purpose. And it makes the audience question or confused. And some people don't like that and they need that safety blanket. And I think that's why people shy away from it quite a lot. And also, like, you know, the stereotype of being a tree or being like really weird and the stuff they've seen is the extreme. But yeah, that's a hard one because I think you can't, like, I don't know, I'm not interested in football. Someone tried to convince me to go and watch a football match, I wouldn't go, would I? So it's hard, isn't it?
Well. But then is football dance? Because it's movement.
Oh, yeah, that's a massive question. Oh, you're walking down the street, is that movement?
Yeah, exactly. You're dancing to somewhere else. That's how you're getting there.
Yeah. They're massive... that brings back to DMU days. Yeah. Yeah, it's... I think just by force. Nice by force. Come and get the beer. Follow me.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a hard one. I'll have to think about that one.
I hope you enjoyed that convo with Scarlett. We had a great long chat, it was about 2 hours, which I edited down. So I hope you guys got a lot out of that, as much as I did. Remember, you can find this podcast on nearly every podcast platform. Also, rating the podcast and sharing it always helps. Also, I'm always looking for new guests for the podcast. So if you know anyone or think that could be you, then definitely let me know. Thanks to Toby Morgan for his graphics, Danny Young, Tom Harrison, and Luke Perrett for their music. Until next time, bye.